Oh, isn't that nice? Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Oh, I see y'all back there.
No, man.
Hey, how you doing? Okay, good. You weren't here last time.
Good morning, how's it going?
Yeah, you know, it does.
Working real good?
I had somebody.
No. Happy Thanksgiving too. Got any big plans this week going on?
Let me try to get this thing ready, girl.
Who said that?
Okay.
It was very, very nice.
Who?
So what?
The what? Ebony ain't coming. I guarantee you she ain't gonna be there. Really? Yep. I'm intervening.
Oh, well, that would be the deal breaker.
I told her, why you waste your time? No, not about that. I just want to show her a better time.
Some for the rest of us, you know?
No, I'm married now. Do
At
that.
least some for the rest of us, poor Sal.
Oh,
Everybody,
she deserves better.
well, that's true. I can't argue with that. Don't they all deserve that? Yeah. Don't they all? They get stuck with us anyway.
No, we don't know what you're talking about.
Stuck with us anyway.
I'm gonna get some.
Like, all right, what's going on?
I want you guys to see
Time I see it.
what the process is like. It's great.
I'm like, girl, I know.
I haven't seen her in a while.
What's all this?
Oh. Like my neighbors people who don't really know me.
I have it.
I'll let her know. All right. Okay, let me know.
Right.
Miss Shelby wanted to podium.
Outside in the hall, table to the right.
Right. Right.
How you doing? Good.
Deal with it.
No, some of the nighttime.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Are we ready? Daryl?
Christmas party, doing it again. Friday.
For 59?
Yeah, we've been laughing.
Which one? For 59?
Live count?
This one was withdrawn.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Gary Common Council meeting, November 20th, 2018, within the 6 p.m. hour. I will ask everyone that can and will please stand for the prayer, and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Moore, will you begin our prayer?
Shall we all pray? Most gracious God, our Father, we come now recognizing your awesome power, recognizing that you are the true and living God. Oh God, we come now with thanksgiving in our hearts. In this season of Thanksgiving, we want to give all praise and glory to you and thank you for blessing us to make it thus far in this year. We thank you, O God, for even right now that you blessed us, that we're in our right minds, that we were able to assemble in this place once again. Thank you for all that you've done, all that you're doing, and all that you will do in the days to come. We ask, O God, now that we're in this session, that you will bless us with wisdom from on high, that minds will be filled with great things for the city of Gary. As the discussions are made and resolutions for the growth of this city, we pray that they will come from on high and that they will be inspired to go forth to put these things into action. We ask you to touch each one under the sound of my voice, touch each extended family. Bless all during this season of Thanksgiving, that the families will come together in spirit and in love, and that there will be a great fellowship, perhaps a restoration of love among family members. Then, oh God, we pray as we go through this Thanksgiving season, we don't forget those who are sick, those who are bereaving, those, oh Heavenly Father, who are experiencing tragedies or just coming out of tragedies, those, oh God, who will not have that meal on Thanksgiving. Bless them in a mighty way. Then, oh God, we pray that as we leave this place tonight, that we will leave with an understanding that we have work ahead. But if we keep our minds stayed on you, we will make great accomplishments. In the mighty and precious name of Jesus Christ our Lord, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Moore, for the prayer. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown.
Present.
Councilwoman Caldwell. Here. Councilwoman Hatcher. Councilman Proto.
Here.
Councilwoman Rogers. Councilman Smith.
Here.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade.
Here.
Councilwoman Wyatt.
Present.
And President Brewer.
Here.
Mr. President, there are 7 present, 2 absent.
Madam Clerk, let the record flow, let the record reflect that Councilwoman Hatcher is no longer a member of this body. Councilwoman Hatcher is now taking position of state representative, and for the record, that seat is now vacant as the councilwoman, the councilman at large seat for the Gary Common Council. So within the next 30 days, a caucus will be called, and we will have a replacement on the Gary Common Council. So the official record number will reflect as
7 present, 1 absent.
with 7 present, 1 absent. We do have a quorum to conduct the business of the city of Gary. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting?
Mr. President, I move that the minutes from our previous meeting be adopted.
Councilwoman Brown, they've been informed the minutes have not been distributed to council members, so there's no minutes.
There are no minutes?
No.
Oh,
They didn't
thought
get
that's what you
distributed, so
asked.
yeah, I did.
Well, okay, whatever.
Assignment of council pending ordinance and resolution on first reading.
CPO 2018-51, an ordinance amending Chapter 8 regarding the humane treatment of animals and animal control procedures in the city of Gary, sponsored by Rebecca Wyatt, Councilwoman, 1st District.
Ways and Means.
CPR 2018-09, a declaratory resolution of the Common Council of the City of Gary, Indiana, designating that a certain area of the City of Gary be established as the Alliance Economic Revitalization Area, to which deductions from assessed value may be requested by an applicant to the Common Council of the City of Gary pursuant to Indiana Code 6-1.1-12.1, sponsored by Mayor Karen Wilson, City of Gary, President Ronald Brewer, Gary Common Council, Gary Redevelopment Department, the Gary Department of Commerce, and the Gary Economic Development Corporation.
Finance.
Mr. President, is the assignment of pending ordinances and resolutions.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Caldwell.
the Ways and Means Committee has before it CPO 2018-51. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council. Councilman Smith?
Here. Or yes.
Councilman Croson?
Yes.
Mr. President, a majority of the committee has approved CPO 2018-51 for reporting out to the council.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Brown.
the Finance Committee has before it CPR 2018-09. For the record, I approve this resolution for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Caldwell
Yes.
and Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Mr. President, a majority of the Finance Committee has approved CPR 2018-09 for reporting out to the council.
At this time, I have the members to report out for the record again.
Mr. President, Ways and Means will report out CPO 2018-51.
Mr. President, the Finance Committee would like to report out CPR 2018-09.
Thank you. Before we go into special and select, I have Mr. Darwin Kennedy that will come at this time and before the City Council with a presentation at this time.
Good evening to the Honorable Mayor Karen Freeman, to the Council, City Council, and all the members that are here joining. I'm glad to say that I presented a Diversity 7 Youth and Safety Empowerment Program that approaches the safety and welfare of our children. Pleased to say that I facilitate this program in a lot of the other communities, but not my own. So I want to start helping our children when it comes to the epidemics that they face here in my community. And I presented to you the program. You can see it approaches actually every aspect when it comes to our children, whether it's directly or indirectly. We speak about the aspect of parents, the aspect of teachers, principals, administration, when it comes to the repercussions of bullying, the repercussions of poor behavior. Glad to say that I'm a victim of it as a youth. Went through it, made poor decisions because of it, because of pretty much being bullied. Wrote a book about it, didn't leave a stone unturned, and had to recover from it. At 54 years old, I still suffer from the traumatic aspect of being bullied because I deal with anxiety. Long story short, my dad did 30 years in the military. He moved to Gary, Indiana in the 70s, and I was very unaccepted because I was very different. Understanding the aspect and the repercussions of diversity, diversity meaning different. I was bullied by my own peers, by my own culture. So it wasn't really this is not really a racial thing, but it's just an aspect, and our children are suffering because of it. Adults are still suffering because of it. I'm glad to say I traveled. I just came from a conference. My last conference I went to was in California. We were talking about how bullying and all the other epidemics that our children face, how it affects us as adults. We talk about our crime wave, whether it's here, whether it's Chicago, wherever it may be. Sometimes it's the repercussion of children that are being bullied. I dealt with the aspect of wanting to be accepted, so I made poor decisions because I wanted to be accepted. I didn't want to be that kid that talked different, that used the word soda because I was from Fort Dix, New Jersey, and and I did, and I knew you all here. I reside in Indianapolis, but I'm up and down the road. I'm still doing work here in the community of Gary, Indiana. And it would just be my pleasure, and what I do, this is how I make a living, but it's not always about $1. It's about making sure that our children can understand how to respond to this epidemic, because it's not a problem anymore, it's an epidemic. I am pleased to say that I'm going to be going on CNN, and the subject is going to be the repercussions of the youth epidemics in our learning arenas. So I'm going to talk about it on a larger stage. I'm pleased. I did Fox and all that, which is getting fine, but it's not about a camera. It's about the repercussions. It's about the solution, and it's about me telling a story. I hid this story for years. I didn't talk about me being inappropriately touched at age 8 until I was 47 years old. And it affected me drastically. And to write a book and talk about it, I hid it. I was ashamed. And I just felt like for me to help a child, I have to talk about it. So I wrote a book called Culture Shock, Challenges to Triumph, speaking about what I endured. And not about, what I went through, how I got there, and how you can get out of it. So my approach is solutions, speaking to parents, because you have to understand 86% of children don't tell when they go through that. They don't tell. We have to learn the signs to see if something children's going on with our children, whether it's the sleep habits, the eating habits, the way they, because they're violent. And these are the repercussions of these epidemics that our children face. So I have a passion for it. I've been doing it for 17 years now. But, and I'm pleased that other communities are approaching me and giving me an opportunity to help their children. But I just have a desire to help this community here. So I thank you for listening. I thank you for the support. And if you look at the program, you can see it's a Diversity 7 Youth and Staff Safety Program. And I did not leave a stone unturned. I tried to cover every corner that I could. When we start talking about this, I'm going to have to say it again, it's not a problem no more, it's an epidemic. And the repercussions of it has become violent in our communities. So anyhow, it's always a pleasure to approach this community I grew up in. And so it's just a pleasure, and I thank you for listening. And I thank you all. And the information's on here if you do have a question. It's a contact number, and I would like to maybe work with our 11 in our schools. I found out we have 11 active schools now, and I'm not looking for $1 million. And when I say that, I just not totally about it's about getting the job done. Because one child might, if you can save one, sometimes you kind of did your job. So I thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilwoman Caldwell.
Mr. President, boards and commissions would like to make a motion to appoint.
Can you pull the mic to you, please?
To appoint Dr. Lucille D. Washington to the library board.
Second.
Any discussion, any council members?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilwoman Wyatt.
I attended the Boards and Commissions meeting, and there were 3 applicants who were interviewed there, and I don't understand how we just have one at this point.
There's only one. Is there? There's only one.
We have one position
That's
available.
okay. All right.
Mr. President, the board member to be appointed is the council appointee. So it seems to me that the council should be able to vote on all of the applicants, or each of the applicants.
No, it's always the recommendation of the chair. So this is what she's presented to us. Either we vote it up or we vote it down, and we go from there.
All right, thank you.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Protho?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
No.
President Brewer?
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 6 yes, 1 no.
Vote of 6 yes, 1 no. The new appointee for the library board is passed. So ordered. Let me just say, I want to thank Mr. Kennedy for coming and sharing that with us. Truly, bullying is something, if you have kids in school, you definitely can relate. In some type of level, bullying is taking place. It's not a lot of times the way that we have seen bullying when we was younger in the school. They have a lot of different ways of reaching each other now, especially with the social media the way it is. And a lot of times we don't think bullying happens because we don't see the physical impact, but there's a lot of ways that people are just bullied just through the social media realm. So I look forward to working with Mr. Kenya. I had worked with him in the past on putting him in 1 or 2 schools, and I look forward to working with him in the future also, getting him inside of the school systems. So I want to thank you for coming and bringing that information to us. At this time, special and select any council member.
Mr. President?
Councilwoman White.
I have a few announcements that I'd like to make. First of all, I'd like to encourage everyone in the city of Gary and to encourage your friends to shop on Lake Street. It is a challenging adventure, but we have construction, road construction. Actually, they're redoing the stormwater sewer, but our shops that are on Lake Street and Miller Avenue are really just hanging on by a thread. So I would like to encourage everyone to do their holiday shopping, shop local, so that we can keep these businesses right in our neighborhood. And so I hope that you can encourage your family and friends to do so as well. I also wanted to announce that last night we had our Art, Culture, and History Committee meeting, and our special guests were the United Male Chorus of Gary, and our own video department taped the meeting, and there was a performance by the United Male Chorus, and it's very exciting and good, and they are looking for members, and once you hear their voices, if you'd like to join, I'm sure they'd love to have you. Again, notice that the First District Community Meeting will be January 28th of 2019. That's the 4th Monday of January, and it will be at the Marquette Park Pavilion at 6 p.m. Everyone is welcome. And then finally, I wanted to say, let me tell you this first. On November 28th, there will be a book signing of the Pictorial History of Gary, the 3rd edition that we were able to get published. And there will be a book signing and presentation by Drs. Cohen and Lane, 2 retired IUN professors who put together the 3rd edition for us. And that is November 28th at the main library at 11 a.m. And books will be available for purchase at that point too. And they are also on sale at Lake Street Gallery. And then finally, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I will be traveling out of town because my mother is turning 80. She had me when she was 50, so I'm really only 30 years old. So, but I'm very excited about that. And so I just want to wish everybody a safe and happy holiday. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Councilwoman Brown.
Thank you. I too would like to extend my best wishes for a happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Today, I had the distinct privilege of attending the Lakeshore Classic luncheon that Chuck Hughes and the Chamber sponsors each year. And the speaker today was Mr. LaTroy Hawkins, who is a former baseball player. So it was a wonderful luncheon, and I certainly want to thank Mr. Hughes for continuing to support the athletes from this area. I also want to extend my condolences to the family of Doris Hazelette Simmons. Many of you may know members of the Hazelette family. It's a large family in the city. And so she was funeralized today at my church in New Mount Moriah. So I want to take this opportunity to extend my sincerest condolences to the entire Hazelette family. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Wade.
I would also like to extend my
blessings to everyone to have a happy and a very safe Thanksgiving. This is usually the time of year that folk are traveling to see family, so make sure that you guys are safe out there and drive carefully. Secondly, on last council meeting a week ago, the chair, Councilman at Large, Herb Smith, made a motion in regards to the investigation into the EMS fund being halted and suspended, and we voted on that. And I usually give a reason for my vote because I think it is important for citizens to understand why their representative voted the way that they did. And so, especially because I was the one who initiated the actions of this council in regards to first initiating a subpoena, because I felt that we needed to answer to the public in regards to what the status of that particular fund was. And I voted for the suspension of the investigation, not because of any of the reasons that the councilman indicated at that time, but because I felt that it is, at this point, as a result of what the exit conference from the State Board of Accounts finalized for us. And, well, actually, it's not a finalization because one thing, we cannot talk about it because it's confidential until up to 30 to 45 days whenever they release the report. So those of us who actually attended that exit conference, and I was one of them, are bound to confidentiality as far as what their findings are. And it is important to understand that, guys, this is not our money. This is taxpayer money. And anything that we do eventually will be available to the public. This particular situation is not available to the public right now, but in a few short days it will be. The way the investigation was conducted by this council, I felt was not adequate. And I felt that it wasn't adequate because, again, this is a public body. We as elected officials depend on our constituency, and we are to be held accountable to our constituency, not to anybody else. I didn't come here to make friends. I didn't come here to make enemies. But oftentimes when you speak up and you speak out, you make enemies that you know, who may not like what you're saying at the time. And so for me, it is a matter of, and we're not talking about holding some information close to our breasts because it's a matter of national security. We often just don't give information to the public because we don't want the backlash of what the public may hear. And so, again, for me, it was a matter of what the findings of the State Board of Accounts were, as well as the fact that this body, in its current form, will never get to. I asked for text messages. Not one time did the chair of that investigation request the text messages that I asked for. And so I did not feel, just like the Democrats now have taken over control of the House, and now they're going to be entering into chairmanships and we'll have subpoena powers and we'll be able to do some things and hold the president accountable. Hold that executive branch accountable. that there are checks and balances. There's a two-party system now in the House of Representatives in Washington. The city of Gary has one party. And so oftentimes those checks go unbalanced simply because we have a one-party system here. And there aren't people who come and speak out. We have Mr. Nowacki, he comes, he speaks out all the time. But who's going to be a check? Matter of fact, sometimes we get scared to say stuff. But oftentimes, Mr. Nowacki says what people are thinking. And so, this is it's an honor to sit here and be before you and be held accountable. If I'm doing something wrong, you can best believe my constituents are saying so. They're calling and they're complaining. Hold us accountable. 2019, we have another election. You're going to see billboards flying up all over the place. Hold folks accountable for what they did, how they voted, while they were in office. What did they do? Did they put a check on the administration? Because that's what we're supposed to do. Whether we like it or not, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to move this city forward, but we're also supposed to be a check and balances against the executive branch of government. Thank you, Mr. President.
Uncle. Anyone else?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilman Smith.
Okay. I'm going to pull this mic real close to me because I want you to hear me. Okay. I agree there needs to be check and balance wholeheartedly. But I also believe that words and statements have consequences. You cannot and you should not just throw out accusations without fully understanding what you're saying. And as Councilwoman Wade indicated a few minutes ago, that in a matter of time, you're going to get the full story about the 224 account. We can't talk about it right now, but you're going to get the full story. And I've always said it was more grandstanding and just a lot of accusations. And soon you're going to get the full story. I also said in the beginning that there was certain things that allowed things to happen. So words and statements have consequences. You cannot and you should not just throw things out without fully understanding what your accusation will do. Those accusations that were made about the 224 account, that hurt the city. That did. When we go out and try to do business in this city, the first thing come up is people reading news articles about someone stole some money. You just can't throw that out there without fully understanding the impact of your words and your statements. So, yes, I suspended the investigation because it was instigated by Ms. Wade, Councilwoman Wade. She did not submit any questions. I received no questions. And I found that kind of ironic. Here, this person instigated this whole thing with her words and her statements. She asked for certain documents as if there was some fire behind the smoke, and then didn't go any further. So what do you call it? Hollow. Just words and statements that were carelessly thrown out there that injured the city. We're trying to rebuild the city, and it's not easy. I can give you a real quick story. My wife and I recently talked to Little Caesars. We were going to try to bring a Little Caesars here. And because of words and statements and perception, they don't want to come. I'm investing my money, but they don't want to come. They were offering me Portage, Burns Harbor, and I'm saying, no, I want to put it in Gary. But they don't want to come. So words and statements have consequences. You cannot and you should not throw out words and statements that injure this community. We're already hurting. So, with that said, I keep emphasizing words and statements, that you cannot throw things out without fully understanding your accusation. And with that, I'm going to let it go. We're going to move on. I don't mean to offend anyone, but we need to be cautious of how we present things. And I think some information may come out tonight that may shed some light on the 224 account. Mr. President?
You can.
Mr. Whitaker, could you please come forward? But, and you'll see where we're going with this.
Mr. President, before Mr. Whitaker comes forward, may I respond to Mr.
Yes,
Smith?
go ahead.
Thank you. Guys, I'm one of those type of people that respect the office of and the position of our elected positions. And I do not do ad hominems. I do not attack a person for the argument that they are trying to make. And oftentimes, you know how we get into these arguments and then somebody starts talking about somebody's mama and all that kind of stuff? Well, that's called a fallacy. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to stick with the argument. Whether you like the argument or not, stick with the argument. And so, grandstanding and hollow and words that are thrown out as if there was no basis to initiate an investigation. There is a basis. And you're not going to hear everything from Mr. Whitaker tonight because he's not at liberty to say. And I don't think that we'll ever get to the bottom of the story. Mr. Smith stated that I did not I did not present any questions. No, I didn't. That's just like President Trump saying that he answered Mueller's questions, but he hasn't submitted them yet. As if the special counsel actually sent him some questions so he can have time to think about it and write down his answer or have somebody else to answer them for him. That's not how investigations are handled. I was an investigator for nearly 15 years with the state of Indiana. Not once did I ever send the questions to the subject of my investigation. It was in child welfare, but it was still investigations because that's not what prosecutors do. You're deposed. Nobody gets prepared questions. So why would I prepare questions just because that's the way Mr. Smith wanted it handled? Mr. Smith also had executive sessions prior to, because everything want to be done in secrecy. This is a public forum, and whether Mr. Smith agrees with me, Councilman Smith agrees with me, ever or not, it doesn't matter to me. What matters is truth. At the end of the day, whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong, it's truth. And truth be told, I never accused anybody of doing anything. Go back, look at the tapes. Not one time did I say, this person did this, such, and the other. So I want my colleagues to understand that it doesn't matter who, at this point, has the floor. It is improper, absolutely improper, to disparage your colleague at any time on a stage like this. And so I am extremely offended at Councilman Smith because that's what he does. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Mr. Whitaker.
Mr. President and members of the council, to the mayor, and to the citizens, we're here to give you a further update on Fund 224. After the release of our report, we had a conversation with the former assistant controller, and she was able to share with us the entries that made up the $131,850.49. We provided on yesterday hard copies of our updated final report to the controller on yesterday, so they have a copy of it. It's a new exhibit. It's an Exhibit H in the report, and it lists the 26 transactions that make up the $131,000. She was able to walk us through where those were and how it happened. A number of them were interest earned that were not included and picked up, as well as all of these transactions, by the way, happened in 2015. And per the assistant controller, there were deposits that weren't booked in RDS for most of 2015 that, again, she provided sort of a roadmap for us on how to get to where we needed to get to, so that we were able to account for the $131,000 that we initially could not account for, because we were looking for one, maybe two transactions, but there were 26 of them, some smaller dollar amounts than others. We have had conversations with the State Board of Accounts. They've come to my office, they've met with me, they've reviewed our report, and as the Councilwoman said, they will issue a statement of some they'll issue something based on their conversation with us and reviewing our work papers and the like. They also have a copy of this updated report. We sent that to them on Monday, so they also have a copy of it, and that's our updated report, Mr. Chair. We have to answer any questions anyone may have.
Well, I can say that is very good news to hear. The last thing we wanted to know was that we had anyone still in any fund from the city of Gary, and it was good to know. I know there are some issues of how things happen, which we will always talk about at a later date, but I'm glad to see that we was able to account for all funds at this time.
Mr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wade?
When did you have that conversation with the assistant controller?
Probably a month and a half ago. It just happened. I was coming out of the bank building. She was in the bank building, and she actually said some things that weren't pretty nice, but you still talk to people. They're our neighbors, and so I said, all we want to know is where the funds are. Had my computer with me. I opened it up, went to the GSD office, and right there we got some further clarification, and then I went back to my office after looking over the weekend, and we were able to come up with that information based on what she shared with us.
And why did it take so long for this body to get that information?
We've been working with the State Board of Accounts, and they've shared with us some things like they've shared with you guys, and so we were really trying to wait for them to come out and say something, and they gave us sort of release to share this information with you. The lead investigator, his name is Dean, shared with us that it was okay, and I actually talked to him last week, as well as sent him an email on Monday, as well as his supervisor, and shared with them, you guys need to share something relative to this. And their response to me in email was, it'll come out in the report from the exit conference. So
prior to now, even though we were circumspect as far as especially with because the 131,000 for me was not the greatest issue, but it was an issue. And that was not a part of the State Board of Accounts. I'm saying we were left with that report a couple months ago whenever you shared it with us. And I'm saying, why wasn't that information made available to this body that you had indeed?
That was after I issued this report. I had a conversation with her, not before.
I know, that's what I'm saying. That since the report was issued, you had a subsequent conversation with her. After you had spoken with us, you could have, at any time, I mean, you could have sent us an email and said, hey, I found the money, I found the money.
We didn't find it. We had to go do some research, and then on the Monday, after the Friday I talked to her, I had a meeting with the State Board of Accounts, and they wanted to know the same thing. Hey, how did you find it? So we wanted to make sure, because they had same questions citizens had, they beat us up with. And so we wanted to make sure, and they wanted to make sure, because Dean has his superiors that he has to talk to, that he was comfortable with what we had found, because he came to my office and met with us, but his superiors still needed more information. So they finally gave us the okay that we're all in agreement relative to what he saw and the information. We sent numerous emails back and forth, them wanting bank statements from 2015 to 2018 that we provided to them, as well as answers to questions relative to a lot of these things. And so once we were able to get comfort, again, we were hoping that they would share some information, and then we were putting a report together. And like I said, I think I gave them to the controller on yesterday, the final bound copies. I sent an email to Dean on Monday, yesterday, good Lord, on yesterday. So we didn't have that information prior to. We found out, and we didn't want to jump to any conclusions relative. We were comfortable and confident with what we did, but we had to answer to the State Board of Accounts, who we turned the report over to.
Is there any other questions, council members?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilman
And I'm done.
Okay.
In summary, I think what you just heard is a good example of what I was just saying earlier, that you just don't throw accusations out there. They're unfounded. There's a way to present things that you have questions about without throwing gasoline out there and destroying this community. Because when you do that, it turns people away. People read the newspaper. People outside of this community who may want to invest here read all that stuff, and they take it as the truth because they don't have any other way of seeing it. So, as a member of this council, and I don't mean to offend you, Councilwoman Wade, and it's not meant to, and I apologize if you take it that way, but we just need to be more careful about how we present things. And when we do present something to the public, the press is sitting right here. They don't know whether it's the gospel or not, but they're going to print it as if it is. So when we present things, we should have done our homework, our due diligence. And if it calls for gasoline to be thrown on the fire, then maybe so. But in most cases, there's a way to present information that you have questions about, that you don't fully understand. And we went through this whole thing for months, where people were accusing each member on this council of stealing, the mayor of stealing. It was just crazy. I've never seen anything like this before in my life. But everywhere I would go, I would hear bad things about the city of Gary and council members and people that work for the city of Gary. We are trying to rebuild this community, and the only way to do it is with facts and presenting information to the public that is substantiated. And if it calls for gasoline to be thrown on a subject, then maybe we'll go there. But that should be the last resort, not the first. And that's why I said I call it grandstanding, overzealousness, and things of that sort. And we can't operate that way, because that's operating on emotions. And those emotions hurt us. And with that, I'm done with this until the State Board of Accounts give us a final accounting, and then we'll see where the investigative committee will go after that. But I just wanted to say what I had to say, because I don't operate on emotions. I try to operate on facts. I will read things, and if we had did a thorough reading of certain things, we may not even be here talking about this, which should come out later. But anyway, thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Whitaker.
Thank you.
Mr.
Mr. President.
May I respond
Let's
to
go
Mr.
to
Smith?
Councilwoman White.
I just wanted to ask Mr. Whitaker or someone if that Exhibit H has been shared with the council.
I know, like I said, I gave the hard copies to the controller yesterday, so I'm not sure. I don't know.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't, no.
It is not. Okay, thank you. Do we have a time frame when we can expect to receive it? Tomorrow. Thanks.
Anyone else before I go to Councilwoman Wade? And then we're going to end this.
But I need to just make a request, and then they can come back to that, whatever they're doing right now. But I just want to make a request to the community. You know, the time has gone back, and our mail carriers are not carrying our mail after dark. And I'm asking that everybody burn their porch lights at least to 7:30 in the evening, so that they don't have to walk up to our homes in the dark. That's my request. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Proto. Councilwoman Wade.
Mr. President, and I really do hate to belabor this point.
I'm done with this.
And I did not interrupt, nor did I make any comments while Councilman Smith was talking, so I would appreciate it if he wouldn't say anything while I'm talking. Anytime my bank book is not balanced, if I don't reconcile my bank book, if my bank book says one thing and the bank says something else, I have a problem. And Mr. Smith would not run his business that way either. If his bank book says one thing and the bank says something else, you can best believe he's going to hightail it down to that bank to see what the problem was. I didn't initiate the problem. The problem was brought to me as the chair of the ambulance committee. Understand, I didn't have access to anybody's books. So the information was brought to me and I addressed the situation. I don't care. At the end of the day, I'm looking for the truth. What happened? And to this day, the submission in Gateway still says an erroneous number compared to what it actually is. And so the gasoline, guys, please don't be deceived. People are not coming to Gary because of something that they saw in the newspaper. One article, 2 articles, or just this year. That's not the reason why. There are a lot of reasons why people don't invest in the city of Gary. And I hear the stories all the time because business people come to me too to let me know this is why we're not doing business in the city of Gary. It's not because of one incident. It's cumulative for the past 40 years. Throwing gasoline on a situation is what Mr. Smith is doing because he knows I'm going to keep on talking and I'm going to keep on defending my position. And we can stay here all night if he wants to.
No, we won't.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Special and select. Any other council members? Council pending ordinance and resolution on third and final.
CPO 2018-56, the ordinance 9204 established a golf cart utility vehicle sponsored by Councilman Herbert Smith Jr., Councilman at Large.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Caldwell.
I move for passage of CPO 2018-56 on third and final.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Brown. I have an amendment with this one also.
Mr. President, I move, we amend by substitution CPO 2018-56.
Second.
We can hear
You can't
that.
hear. Here you go.
The motion is to amend by substitution CPO 2018-56. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Smith. Roll call on amendment.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Proto,
Yes.
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade,
No.
Councilwoman Wyatt,
No.
President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 5 yes, 2 noes.
5 yes, 2 noes. CPO 2018-56 has been amended. Overview at this time.
Good evening, council members.
Good evening.
This is your overview of the amendment to the golf cart ordinance. There's just a couple of small but significant changes. For example, section 2, we've changed the definition section to specifically not include all-terrain and utility vehicles. This golf cart ordinance will apply only to what is traditionally known as a golf cart. Additionally, section 3 we've edited for just a minor typo. Again, the code section should be 921.3.3 instead of 9.2-1-3.3. Additionally, the Gary Police Department will not be listed as the inspection authority. Instead, we will just list the City of Gary as the inspection authority. That's to allow for flexibility purposes. We'll handle that as a policy matter rather than put that in the ordinance. Additionally, the section 3, we've changed the numbering from the original ordinance in order to consolidate, which were essentially related items, consolidating those into one subsection rather than several. Additionally, section 4, we've added paragraph 2. That essentially states that the stickers must be displayed on the rear of the vehicle, or rear of the golf cart, and must always be unobstructed. We've also altered paragraph 9, the last sentence, again, to change from the Gary Police Department to the City of Gary. In section 6, we've removed the in good working condition clause from section 6 as in order to avoid the idea that there would be any type of warranty from the City of Gary that the vehicle was in good working condition. Additionally, the headlights and taillights section, or the clause there, was going to be removed. We wanted to allow for traditional golf carts. However, in section 8, we made up for that by adding language that prohibited operating after dusk or before dawn without functioning headlights or taillights. Also in section 6, we required that a safety flag or a slow-moving vehicle sign on the back of the vehicle be affixed to the golf cart, not necessarily both, as the previous ordinance had stated. Lastly, in section 10, we've added section 10 lists all the different streets for which golf carts will be prohibited from operation. We've added Burr Street, Grand Avenue, and Miller, and then also in Miller, the south of the 400 block on Lake Street. So that essentially is all of the changes that would be in the golf court ordinance.
Any questions, council members?
Mr. President?
Councilwoman White.
I again voted no on the amendment by substitution because I still believe that we should say what the amendment, what the substitution is. I attended the meeting and I see that I have the amended ordinance before me, but the public does not know what we're voting on when we vote to amend by substitution. So I again request that we start doing that. In addition, I see on the amendment that we did not get Grand Avenue changed to Grand Boulevard. Well, that was one of the issues that came up at the committee. The name of the street is really Grand Boulevard.
Mr. President?
Let me get a response here. Okay, so we'll make note that that should be not Grand Avenue, Grand Boulevard. That is O. Councilwoman Wade.
Last time we considered this ordinance, we had a discussion in regards to Martin Luther King Drive, and it was to exclude Martin Luther King Drive south of Ridge Road, and that is not on here.
So we need to add that inside also. The Martin Luther King south of Ridge Road is prohibited. Those are the two changes, Madam Clerk, that need to be also amended in this. Any other questions? Thank you. Public portion is now open. Anyone would like to speak for or against CPO 2018-56? You have 3 minutes to speak on this ordinance.
Good evening to the council. When it comes to this ordinance, I'm not surprised. I've heard a lot of people say, why in the world do we need an ordinance like this? Well, a few months ago, I was at Walmart, and sure enough, somebody at Walmart on US 30, and someone drove into the Walmart parking lot with a golf cart. It wasn't part of the store, wasn't part of Sam's Club. It was a patron who actually drove his golf cart to Walmart and parked in the resident area. I've also seen people drive, a couple of them, over in by Wicker Park. So for us not to have one, I believe we did need one, because you never know who would try to take advantage of the situation, and certain situations do need regulations. Thank you.
Seeing no one else, public portion is now closed. Council Smith, and when does this just take effect? Is there a date on here, or? Because I was wondering, is the city prepared to enforce this right away once we pass it? Or should we take this out?
Well, Mr. President, the ordinance is already in effect, and what we've done here is made technical changes here. And changes like the word, striking the word avenue, or adding some language to prohibit use of a golf cart on south of Martin Luther King. These are just technical changes, and we're in the winter season right now where they're not being used. So It could be effective almost immediately, and the city has time to.
Okay. So the ordinance is already in effect?
Yeah, Mr. President, they've done some inspections. They have been implementing the ordinance.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman White.
I think this amendment that is proposed, adding the restriction, the prohibition on the streets on south of 4th Avenue on Lake Street, that's new. So I think, that should, if we're going to make that effective, upon passage, that's fine. But it's not just the minor, this is a whole change to the original golf cart ordinance. The items that Councilwoman Sparks Wade and I mentioned were just technical issues that were not included after the committee meeting.
Well, Councilwoman Wade, I know she made that known during the first passage, and
Right.
it seemed like it just got left off here. And this was like a typo with Grand Boulevard being the avenue.
Right.
On here. Okay. All right. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Protho?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
No.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
President Brewer?
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 6 yes, 1 no.
6 yes, 1 no. CPO 2018-56 is passed on third and final and so ordered.
CPO 2018-57, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Carmela Bell, 4120 West 15th Avenue, Gary, Indiana, property of 4120 West 15th Avenue, Gary, Indiana.
Yes. Mr. President, I move for passage of CPO 2018-57 on third and final reading.
Second by Councilwoman Caldwell. Overview at this time.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm going to give you an overview from BZA, which was held on October 8th. Ms. Carmilla Bell petitioned for a special use permit to open or establish a home daycare. She lives at the residence. She currently watches her own grandchildren, and she's looking to expand her operations. The BZA recommended approval with the contingency that she only be open between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. because her only staff member is herself. And so they wanted to make sure that she had enough staff if she wanted to, for example, be a 24-hour daycare. Let's see. 62 letters were mailed to surrounding homeowners. 1 was not opposed. 1 was undeliverable, and 60 gave no response. And as I said, BZA recommended approval.
Is there any questions, council members, at this time? Thank you. Public portion is now open. Anyone would like to speak for or against CPO 2018-57? Seeing none, public portion is now closed. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Protho?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer?
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 7-0.
Vote of 7-0. CPO 2018-57 has passed on third and final and so ordered.
CPO 2018-58, an ordinance establishing a fund and department for the Broadway Senior Park, sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller, and Department of Redevelopment and Planning.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Brown.
I move the CPO 2018-58 be withdrawn from the agenda.
And second by Councilwoman Caldwell. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Protho?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer?
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 7-0.
With a vote of 7-0, CPO 2018-58 has been withdrawn from our agenda. So ordered.
CPO 2018-59, an ordinance establishing a fund and department for the city church stabilization, sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller, and Department of Redevelopment and Planning.
Mr. President, I move for passage of CPO 2018-59 on third and final reading.
Been properly second by Councilwoman Caldwell. Overview at this time.
Mr. President, I move to amend by substitution of CPO 2018-59.
Been moved properly second with the amendment. Roll call on amendment.
Mr. President, before,
Councilwoman.
could we
Wait, I'm
explain
sorry.
what the amendment is?
Overview on the amendment.
Well, we do have the memo. It is just that there was a fund established in a department for the city church stabilization. Section 2 of the ordinance provided an incorrect account code, which has been removed. So the attached budget is correct and remains unchanged. Okay. So that's the amendment.
Thank you.
Roll call on the amendment, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Protho?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 7-0.
Vote of 7-0. CPO 2018-59 has been amended and so ordered. Overview at this time. I understand what council members are saying about the getting before, but the council members already know what the amendment is. It's going to be done inside the overview at the same time. So I just want to put that point out for the public. Will have knowledge of what the amendment is.
This ordinance establishes a fund and department for city church stabilization. The Gary Redevelopment Commission received a grant from the Knight Foundation for $164,733 for stabilization. This is a fund that will allow us to properly administer that grant, as well as other grant funds we might receive for the project in the future.
Mr. President,
Councilman Wade.
why did it take so long for us to create the line item for this, to establish the fund for this? We received the grant in August of 2017.
Well, we received the grant from the Knight Foundation with the intention of building a ruins garden, as I think has been brought to everyone's attention at one point or another. But after we did the structural survey that the Gary Redevelopment Commission paid for as their match for this grant, we discovered that the structure was not in proper condition to establish a garden at this time. First, we had to focus on stabilization of the structure. So we had to go to the Knight Foundation and request approval to move the funds. And so now that we have that approval, we're ready to use these funds almost immediately for stabilization purposes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Tonight is set aside for public portion. Anyone like to speak for, against CPO 2018-59? You have 3 minutes to speak on this ordinance.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. My name is Jim Nowacki. I live in the 2nd District, and once again we're seeing this kind of double talk, talking about this $163,000 being used for stabilization of the Old City United Methodist Church. And you can see on the attachments, the ordinance that you're looking at, that not 1 penny of it goes to stabilization. Like so many other phony projects in our city, this proposed $5 million project, $5 million, starts with what's alleged to be $163,000 to stabilization. But you can see it for yourself. Not 1 penny is going to stabilization. It's all going to project associates, consultants, managers. None of it's going to stabilization. It's all going to just like so many other projects we see, we're going to plan and plan and plan and plan for this $5 million. And who the heck ever requested $5 million for that project? Who ever did that? Well, we all know that $5 million, just like $200 million at the airport, are going to get us nothing. If we use this $5 million and just split it up around other houses of actual worship that need some structural work, maybe need some roofing, maybe need some tuck pointing to keep them viable for congregations, because these are some historical buildings in our community. We could do an awful lot to make sure that churches don't have leaky roofs if the congregation needs some help. But to spend $5 million on this phony baloney project and start it with this and call it that we're stabilizing something, but of course everyone knows we're stabilizing nothing. The building's falling in on itself. We charge people $50 a day to go in there and watch the building fall into ruin. Not one penny of this is going to stabilize anything. So let's call it what it is. We've got a couple of people from out of town roll into Gary with big plans for this $5 million. We're going to get nothing to show for it. Whoever asked for it? You know, we've got $200,000 of community development money into the project. This is going to be a mess. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nowacki.
Mr. Chairman.
Good evening, Kendra S. Johnson, 4th District. One of the things I'd like to see done is, after the money is spent on this project, I would love to have someone come back here or even provide a presentation of what was done and how it was done. And the reason being is I hear so often from so many people, whether I'm on the bus or whether I'm at a store or whether I'm at a school or whether I'm on Facebook, about where our money is spent and what's being done with our money. And, you know, since we're doing this fund, establishing this fund for this money, I think it's called accountability. And then maybe, as one of our councilmen said before, when this is shown and it's done, people outside of the city can't accuse us within the city, and I say us loosely, but individuals in charge of certain funds of not using the funds properly or misappropriating. Thank you.
Seeing no one else, public portion is now closed. Mayor Kemp.
Mr. Chairman, members of the public, I just want to be clear that there is no fund of $5 million for the City Methodist Church restoration. There was a discussion about what it would take, and even with that, there has never been an estimate, to my knowledge, that says that it will take $5 million to restore it. This is the first stage, but I just want to be clear. We are not sinking or requesting that anyone sink at this juncture $5 million into City Methodist Church.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer?
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 7-0.
Vote of 7-0. CPO 2018-59 has passed on third and final and so ordered.
CPO 2018-60, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Linda Coulter, 6632 Lagoon Way, Portage, Indiana. Property at 1988 Arthur Street, Gary, Indiana.
Mr. President,
Councilman Smith.
I move for passage of CPO 2018-60, and I recuse myself from voting on this ordinance because Mrs. Coulter was married to a relative of mine, and I don't want the appearance of any impropriety. So I recuse myself.
Councilman Smith, you can't
Just make
accuse
the
yourself
motion.
in that. You have to make the motion first.
Okay.
And then not vote on them.
Right.
It's the same from the vote.
Say that again.
Just make
You
the
have to
motion.
make the motion and put it on the floor first.
Okay.
And then abstain from the actual vote.
Gotcha. I got you. Okay.
You can give your
I like
right
to.
abstaining.
Okay. Okay. Well, I did make the motion. Without all the other stuff. Gotcha. Okay.
I need you to restate the motion.
Oh, okay. You want me to say it again? Okay. I move for passage of CPO 2018-60 on third and final.
Been seconded by Councilwoman Caldwell. Overview at this time.
Ms. Coulter came before BZA on October 8th, and they recommended approval of her petition for a special use permit to open a home daycare. The home at 1988 Arthur Street is currently, her daughter lives in this home who will help her with the daycare. 98 letters were mailed to surrounding homeowners. 5 were not opposed. 3 were opposed. They called the office. They did not return their letters. They called the office. They did not leave their names or their addresses. 20 letters were undeliverable, and 70, there was no response. In addition, I've received a letter from Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, whose mother actually owns the house that the daycare will operate in. So I'll read that now. I think that you guys all have a copy as well. Dear Councilman Brewer, I'm writing to provide additional information about a matter that is on the council agenda today. It is a variance, actually a special use permit, for a daycare located at 1988 Arthur Street. The petitioner is Linda Coulter. Ms. Coulter has agreed to rent this residence from my mother, Dolores Freeman. Because of Ms. Freeman's incapacity, I handle all of her business. Ms. Coulter's daughter, Lakeisha Joseph, will live in the residence and assist with the daycare. I have taken added steps to discuss this project with most of the adjacent neighbors. The majority of them signed a petition in favor of the variance, which you also should have. One neighbor expressed concern because he thought it might restrict his right to drink alcohol. I assured him that it would not infringe on his right to drink alcohol in his own home. There's also a petition that you should have received as well from surrounding neighbors. The addresses are listed. Again, BZA voted, recommended to approve.
Thank you. I do have a copy of the mayor's letter and also a copy of all the signed signatures from the neighbors in their block also. Mayor, you kind of know how this goes a little bit, huh? Any question, council members? Tonight is set aside for public. Anyone like to speak? For or against CPO 2018-60? You have 3 minutes to speak on this ordinance. Seeing none, public portion is now closed. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
I abstain.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President voted 6 yes, 1 abstention.
With 6 yes, 1 abstention, CPO 2018-60 has passed on third and final. So ordered.
CPO 2018-61, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Kara Williams, 1916 Hayes Street, Gary, Indiana. Property at 759 Martin Luther King Drive, Gary, Indiana.
Mr. President,
Councilman Smith.
I move for passage of CPO 2018-61 on third and final reading.
And moving properly second by Councilwoman Caldwell. Overview at this time.
Kara Williams' petition for a special use permit to open a home daycare came before BZA on October 8th. They recommended approval. The daycare is at 759 Martin Luther King Drive. She rents this property and she has approval from the landlord to operate this type of business. 77 letters were mailed, 1 was opposed, 0 were not opposed, 18 were undeliverable, and 58 had no response. And again, it was recommended by the BZA for approval.
Any questions, council members? Tonight is set aside public portion. Anyone would like to speak for or against CPO 2018-61? You have 3 minutes to speak on this ordinance. Seeing none, public portion is now closed. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer?
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 7-0.
Vote of 7-0, CPO 2018-61. Pass on third and final, and so ordered.
Mr. President, is pending ordinances and resolutions on third and final.
Council pending ordinance and resolution on second reading.
CPO 2018-51, an ordinance amending Chapter 8 regarding the humane treatment of animals and animal control procedures in the city of Gary, sponsored by Rebecca Wyatt, Councilwoman of the 1st District.
Councilman Caldwell.
I move for passage of CPO 2018-51 on second reading for the committee hearing for November the 27th at 5:45 and a public meeting December the 4th at 6 p.m. Somebody.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Smith. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer?
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 7-0.
Vote of 7-0. CPO 2018-51 is moving to the Ways and Means Committee November the 27th at 5:45 and a public hearing December 4th at 6 p.m.
CPR 2018-09, declaratory resolution of the Common Council of the City of Gary, Indiana, designating that a certain area of the City of Gary be established as the Alliance Economic Revitalization Area, to which deductions from excess value may be requested by applicant to the Common Council of the City of Gary pursuant to Indiana Code 6-1.1-12.1, sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, President Ronald Brewer, Gary Common Council, Gary Redevelopment Department, Gary Department of Commerce, and the Gary Economic Development Corporation.
Mr. President, I move for passage of CPR 2018-09 on second reading. Finance Committee meeting on Tuesday, November 27th at 5:30 p.m. and a public hearing on December 4th.
Second.
Moving properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer?
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 7-0.
With a vote of 7-0, CPR 2018-09 is moved to the Finance Committee November 27th at 5:30 p.m. and a public hearing December 4th at 6 p.m.
Mr. President, is pending ordinances and resolutions on second reading.
Thank you. I need to alter our agenda just a little bit. Before I turn it to the mayor, Mr. Ted Millard, I kind of want you to go through special and select, but I want the mayor to be able to hear your concerns because we have talked about some issues that you're having in your area. So I will move to special and select, and I have 3 speakers. Mr. Ted, you want to talk? Okay. Okay. So you're good? Ted, you good? Okay. Okay. Just want to make sure. I know we had talked, so I'll go back to the regular scheduled agenda then. Okay. Mayor, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thanks for being willing to do that. I did have an extensive conversation with Mr. Millard, and we're going to refer that to both the police department and the code enforcement department so that we can get an investigation started right away.
Thank you.
I wanted to just piggyback on a statement that Councilwoman Wyatt made earlier and just make her and others aware that on Saturday, which is Small Business Saturday, we will be doing a tour of Lake Street as a source of encouragement to get people to shop with our local businesses. We chose Lake Street not to the exclusion of any other small business in our community. Everybody knows that I frequent businesses all over this city, but I know that with the improvements that we have been engaging in on Lake Street, there have been some challenges with those businesses. So that tour will occur at 10 a.m., but I encourage our residents to shop all over the city, but certainly consider the businesses on Lake Street because they have had a special hardships with the businesses. I want to also announce that today we swore in 2 additional fire recruits, and part of that was because there were a couple who have dropped out of the class, but we wanted to still keep the class at the original number, and so it created 2 additional opportunities. They are progressing, and the new recruits joined the current recruits, so that is that's great news, and we will keep you posted on their progress. I also wanted to call your attention to a note that I sent to all of you relative to some of the public works updates. I wanted to give it tonight, but I also wanted you to have it. And one of the things that was on that was the fact that we have completed the paving for this year. There will be additional paving in the spring, but we completed the paving for this year, and what we are waiting to determine is whether or not we are better waiting until the spring to stripe the streets that have been paved, because we don't want to have some striping and because of the weather not have it set appropriately. So we will keep you posted on that. In addition to that, I want to indicate that we had salt deliveries on November 15th and November 19th. And just to assure this council that even prior to taking those deliveries, we did in fact have salt, and we were using the salt throughout the city. In addition to that, we are preparing the process for the first stage of the light fixtures, and that number is totaling light repairs, not fixtures, light repairs. That first phase will total about $400,000, so I wanted to make you aware of that. In addition to that, we are, because of retirements, some of the part-time workers who completed their employment last Friday, some of the part-time workers are going to be hired as we go along. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. They were excellent workers, and we were able to get a lot done as a result of their work. I wanted to also remind folks of the Lakeshore Classic that will be going on Friday and Saturday at Westside High School, involving both local schools as well as some Chicago schools. Today there was a luncheon held at the Diamond Center. This is all sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce, and LaTroy Hawkins was the keynote speaker. I also was honored to give him a key to the city, but, just thanked him for all of the work that he does in the city. He didn't need a key because he knows where we are, and is always involving the city in projects for the betterment of our young people as well as the community as a whole. I wanted to also indicate that a mural was dedicated today at the Douglas Center, and this is a mural that was placed on a container, an empty container car, but it was a mural depicting all of the nature. It was a part of the Calumet Artist Residency that Sam Love is involved in. The artist's name was Melissa, and I'm sorry I forgot her last name, but she depicted all of the native ecology, the butterflies, the flowers, native flowers and plants, and it's a beautiful mural. So if you're in the area of the Douglas Center, please stop and see it. It is just a really nice mural. I wanted to give you the schedule and to correct any confusion as it related to the roof replacement at City Hall. The problem that occurred, and you may have said this, Mr. Chairman, at the last meeting, I wasn't sure, but I did want to just clarify the problem that occurred with the leaking was not a result of the work that was done previously. That work is still intact, but as the new contractor was preparing to embark on the installation of the green roof, there was a failure to secure certain parts of the roof, and that has since been corrected. And he understands that he will have to be held responsible and has already stepped up to the plate to ask us to provide a list of anything that was damaged. As it relates to the schedule, between 10:31, and that's already started, to 12:21, the parapet stone removal will occur. The parapet stone fabrication will occur between November 6th and March 1st. The parapet stone installation will occur from 2:25 to 4:12, and the green roof trays will be installed in April. There was a question, I think, with the historical committee, and because it is not modifying any portion of City Hall, which is a historical building, there was not any permission required from the Department of Natural Resources or the Department of the Interior. Yesterday, the Gary Sanitary District approved about $300,000 in demolition that will be a dual purpose. One, it will allow us to address some of the burnouts around the city, but it will also allow us to engage in a project where these sites will be left concave, and there will be sort of this green infrastructure feature that will allow us to test an opportunity to address our long-term control plan, which we are in the process of doing. It will be done in a MOU or a memorandum of understanding with the Sanitary District and the Redevelopment Commission. So I wanted to make you all aware of that. I want to send condolences to the families of Julius Hill. Mr. Hill was the longtime owner of Elka Daycare. He passed away. His funeral is Saturday. The family of retired police officer Lieutenant James Walton, his mother, Eldora Patterson Johnson, passed away, and she will be funeralized Saturday. And the family of Letha May Bond, the mother of Gary police officer James Bond. So all three of those services are going to be this Saturday. I want to thank everyone who participated in any way for the Thanksgiving giveaway. We served over 500 families. We gave away over 500 baskets to families in this community, and I want to give a special thanks to all of the volunteers, all of the sponsors, certainly to the LaShawn Brooks, who led this effort, Mayor's Office of Constituent Services, our entire special events team, and it was just a tremendous opportunity for our community. I want to also thank all who came out to the community vigil at the Temple Israel to honor the victims and families of the synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh. It was an ecumenical service at our own temple, and I want to thank all who put that together and all of the city department heads who attended. I did make a special request for them to come out in demonstration of unity for our own Jewish community and all communities who have been persecuted. The Gary Fire Department is hosting a coat drive. It's Local 359, and they are going to be collecting coats, hats, and gloves. They will accept donations at the to any Gary Fire Department station between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. Gently used coats or new coats, hats, gloves in all sizes, and those donations will be accepted until December 17th. Also, I just want to announce in advance that on December 13th, there will be a toy giveaway here at the Genesis Center for all of the students at the boys and girls who attend the Boys and Girls Club, and that is being sponsored by a group of corporate donors. That is December 13th, and that is for those who are participants of the Boys and Girls Club. But on December 21st, there will be a community-wide giveaway for of food, and that is being sponsored by the United States Steelworkers and District 1014. That's not the district. I'll get that right. District 7 and Local 1014. And I just want to thank them in advance for what they're doing. They expect to give over 1,500 food baskets away on December 21st. And so we are certainly grateful for those with giving hearts, and those things don't happen in a vacuum. They happen because there are volunteers who are actively working in this community. With that, I will answer any questions.
Any questions for the mayor at this time from any council members?
Mr. President?
Councilman Wade.
Madam Mayor, what is the status of the fire station in the 6th District?
Thank you for reminding me. We are taking it to the Board of Works tomorrow for the awarding of the contract. We'll be looking to do a groundbreaking in the first or second week of December. One of the provisions of the agreement is that we want to do a local, I don't know that it's called a hiring opportunity, but local contracting opportunity. So we want to combine that with the groundbreaking. So we will coordinate with your schedule, Councilwoman Sparks Wade.
Okay, great. Thank you. And secondly, one of the probably most consistent complaint that I get is in regards to service stations, gasoline service stations not having public restrooms in the city of Gary. And I cannot tell you how many times I get this complaint, but again, what I did, I looked up the ordinance, and initially I looked it up online. Those of you who are aware, there's a codified presentation that the clerk has done online where you can look up ordinances. And this particular ordinance wasn't complete. And so I had the ordinance pulled, and I thought maybe we needed to do something to add a penalty to it. But there is a penalty of $2,500 that the particular offender could be fined if found in violation of this ordinance. And I would like, Madam Mayor, to know what are we doing in regards to enforcing this ordinance?
Gas stations have been cited in the past, and what I can do is get you a list of those citations and the outcomes in court, because I do know that they have been cited, they have gone to court, and generally when they're cited, they provide the bathroom, and I think the issue is making sure that it's done consistently.
Okay, because I know the one on 49th and Broadway does not consistently have a public restroom.
I understand. Okay. In fact, I was in one Saturday with the 10 Point Coalition on 45th and Broadway, and I asked that very question. So I know that you're absolutely correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And so, did the chief? Oh, he was here.
No, he's gone.
Assistant chief. Okay. All right. So if we could, I don't know if we could go.
So
around.
it wouldn't be the police department. It would be
code enforcement.
yeah.
Okay. So if that could be like a consistent thing that they do,
Yes.
is to check on the bathrooms, because it's a serious problem.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Welcome. Any other questions, council members?
Yes, I do.
Councilman Proto.
I know we're short on code enforcement officers. So what I would like to know is, can I be a volunteer? Because I'm tired of people getting away with murder.
I'm with you, Councilman.
You know, Councilman, we will certainly look at that. You may recall that maybe 10 or 15 years ago, there was an effort to deputize precinct committee people. Mm-hmm. And I think the issue was liability. Right. So I will look at it again, because, you know, we could use additional boots on the ground. And, you know, if we could set some stricter criteria, there could be an opportunity for us to perhaps deputize. So I'll check that out.
I'm with you, Councilman. Councilwoman Caldwell.
Mayor?
Yes.
What's the link for Amazon?
The job,
hiring.
The hiring link. Mm-hmm. So it's on Monster and Indeed.com, but we also had a link. Can I send that to you? Because they had a couple of hiring fairs last week, and we transported residents there. Okay. But I will send it to you.
All right, thank you.
And I will at least preview this, because some of this has, it was in the 411, but we are going to have an announcement early in December talking about some of the new businesses that are coming to the city, and certainly Amazon is one of them. It's not a secret. They have been hiring folks, and they should be opening in early December.
Okay, thank you.
I did, Mr. President, I did want to just reference the meeting that I had with an organization called the Goals Organization, and the Goals Organization actually is the Goals Organization is a group of local investors, some landlords, some owners of property leasing to own, and just wanted to commend them for being so excited to bring people to Gary. It was a really, really good meeting. They talked about the residents that they wanted to bring to Gary. They are aware of my goal of 100,000 folks, and they said that they are on board to help us to achieve that number. And then some of you may have attended a call-in before. On November 28th, we will have a Gary for Life call-in. I know that there were a number of questions during budget time about Gary for Life. I would welcome those who have not attended a call-in to please attend it. It is Wednesday, the 28th at 6 p.m. And it is at Indiana University Northwest.
Any other questions for the mayor, council members?
Mr. President.
Councilwoman White.
Madam Mayor, do we have the trimmed down budget for 2019? Because I think we talked about having that in November.
We did talk about that, and we will provide that to you at the next council meeting.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. We have two speakers, Ms. Kendra Johnson and Mr. Nowacki. Our two speakers.
Good evening to the council, to the employees of the city, and to those that are joining us by way of the media. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank New Mount Moriah and Christian Valley for the dinners, Thanksgiving dinners they're offering in the city, to Peters Rock and Trinity UCC for the turkey giveaways that they had, and also to the 100 Glove Groups for the giveaway of gloves and hats to the children in Dory Miller. And there was a church, and I'd like to thank the sponsors of the city's Thanksgiving baskets. And lastly, to the church in Etna that provided Thanksgiving dinners. I wanted to bring to the attention of the community that on November 6th, it was announced that we had a new emergency manager of the Gary Community School Corporation. And also there was a written statement or a written announcement that stated that there would be 3 community meetings with the new emergency manager on November 26th at 8 a.m. at Westside Leadership Academy, on November 26th at 5 p.m. at Gary Middle School in Miller, Indiana, and November 27th at 8 a.m. at Williams Elementary. Now this evening at the report card giveaway at Westside, there was another flyer passed out. Unfortunately, on that flyer, Westside was left out. But being who I am, with parents, I will be checking Monday morning to see about that oversight. Because it's important for parents to be, especially under Title I law, y'all know I love to quote that Title I law, Section 1116, that parents must be involved in the decisions concerning the education of their children. And so we don't want any parents to be left out in this conversation. So therefore, if you have any questions, I suggest you call the Gary Community School Corporation School City and find out what's going on, because you don't want to wait too late. With that being said, I'd like to wish the council, those present and those joining us by the way of the media, a very safe and happy holiday. And also prayers going out to the police officer in Chicago that lost his life, to the doctor, and to the pharmaceutical technician. It's a shame when other people's instability costs the lives and traumas to different families. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. My name is Jim Nowacki. I live in the 2nd District. Earlier today, I had commented on an ordinance that you passed regarding that boondoggle at City United Methodist Church. And there was only one estimate that had been given at the Redevelopment Commission meeting regarding the estimated cost of that project. That was $5 million. Now, the mayor had contradicted me after my comment, saying she had never heard of an estimate like that. Now, that would have been a good time for the council to have taken it up and asked the mayor. I have no ability to question the mayor after she makes a wild, irrational statement like that, but it would have been a good time for a member of the council to say, Madam Mayor, if Mr. Nowacki has that fact wrong and you've got a fact that's correct, would you enlighten us as to what the estimated cost of that project is before we run down that rat hole? Before we run down that rat hole. Of course, the council didn't do that, and the mayor has taken off, but Mr. Van Dyke is here. Mr. Van Dyke can tell us what the estimated cost of that project is before we run down that rat hole, before we spend $200,000 of community development money, before we spend all of this other money. We should know what the estimate is before we do it. Now, saying as much as that, I want to bring up an issue that I brought at the last meeting regarding the flooding on 5th Avenue. Do you know that they're going to fix 5 of the major flooding areas on that project, but they're not going to fix the major flooding, the worst flooding on 5th Avenue, at 5th Avenue and Broadway? They said there's no infrastructure there. But that didn't flood before they redid the road. So wrap your heads around that they created the problem. Reith Riley Company created that problem. Now NDOT is saying we have no way to fix it. Is that acceptable to this council? That Reith Riley gets $40 million for a project, that they screw it up, that they can't fix the flooding, even at public expense, can't fix the flooding, and we're supposed to accept that? I think Mr. President, members of the council, that's unacceptable. Unacceptable. To me, it should be unacceptable to you. They created the problem. Someone has to fix it. And don't tell me it can't be fixed, because everything can be fixed. And especially after we've already paid you $40 million. In passing, I hope you all celebrate a happy Thanksgiving. I hope you have many things to be thankful for, and I hope you have many to share thanks with. And happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nowacki. As our last speaker, I want to say happy birthday in advance to Councilwoman Cotwell, who will be celebrating a birthday this Saturday. And also happy birthday to my Superintendent Alan Smith, who is a pastor in the city of Gary, and he'll be turning 100 years old this Saturday also. So we want to wish him a happy birthday. Also, there will be a Thanksgiving dinner this Thursday from 12 to 4 o'clock done by the Deltas. We asking all that can, you know someone that needs a good meal for Thanksgiving, please let's come out to New Mount Moriah for a great Thanksgiving dinner. So as we leave on tonight, I would like to just say, with us going into the Thanksgiving season, a lot of people deal with a lot of things around this time, and we all have so much to be thankful for. But let's consider someone that may be dealing with something that we may not be dealing with, whether it's the loss of a loved ones, and all of us have lost people at times, and some is dealing with things right now. Reach out and call that person during this Thanksgiving season and just encourage them during this time, because it's very difficult when you have lost close loved ones during a holiday season such as this. So I'd like to wish everyone here and everyone at home a happy Thanksgiving. Look forward to seeing you at the next council meeting, December 3rd, 2018, here in the Jensen Convention Center at 6 p.m. I'll entertain a motion for, what I say? December 4th, right here in the Jensen Convention Center at 6 p.m. Look forward to seeing everyone here. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We now adjourn. God bless you all.
We're meeting back here.